it's really about kind of spreading the message that anyone can do it, no matter your background, no matter, you know, whether you started aged 5 being dragged out by your granddad, you know, on the moors or on the marshes, or whether you start in your 40s, it doesn't matter, you know, it's never too late. It's a sport that's open to everyone, but not enough people, I believe, are aware that it's open to everyone, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I mean, where were you brought up and how did you discover shooting?
I was brought up on a council estate. I'm a working class girl, didn't know anything about shooting. I wanted to be in the army because I was a bit of a tomboy. I was like, the army gets to play with guns, so I can play with guns. And then I was like, oh no, you have to kill people. Right, I'll be in the TA, because the TA is not real, but then I found out it was. So then I kind of, you know, life got in the way. I had a child very young, and then I met my ex-husband, and he...
You met him before he was your husband, obviously.
I met him before he was my husband. He took me on a day's clay shooting at Sporting Targets in Bedfordshire as a birthday present. And I was obsessed because I'm quite a competitive person against myself as well, and I got to play with guns. I
hope there's not a tragic end to the story where, you know, he leaves you because of you.
I left him, sunshine.
Okay,
all right, thank you. Let's get that straight. And part of the reason was because he was very upset that I now have a bigger gun than he has.
That is the best reason for leaving your husband I've heard so far. And there may have been other reasons too, but that's a cracker. Yeah, okay. All right, so for the last, 14 or 15 years, you have been a shooter. And
yes.
What do you do?
Everything. I mean, I've tried everything, and I believe you should try everything because I think you have to find what's right for you. So I started out actually being invited on some wealthy private game shoot, and I was like, oh my God, I had no etiquette, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just whispered in my ear, don't shoot over their heads, just shoot that way. And I had a great time. That's where I first found out about beating, because I went over to the beaters at lunch and was like, oh, this is great, you got some great birds up, guys, that's brilliant, I love your dog. And they all kind of stared at me like I was crazy, and I just backed away slowly and was like, what have I done wrong? I was like, no, it's like, they're the beaters, you're a gun, you don't talk to the beaters. I was like, oh, okay.
that is a slightly worrying shoot to be on, but I know that some shoots are like that.
Very old school, and very, you know, and I had fun, but I didn't necessarily agree with that because I wanted to be able to tell those guys, you know, thank you, and you know how well they'd worked. And from that, I then went on to beating with my late Springer Spaniel, who was fabulous, and found out about that side, learned more about how the birds behaved, which I think helps you understand more when you're on the peg, and realised how hard it was. It's really bloody hard work.
It is. It's fun though, isn't it?
It's so much fun, and just watching the dogs, you know, being in their element there's nothing like it. And then I just kind of carried on trying out different things, pigeon shooting, wildfowling, rabbits, and each time I did a new shooting discipline, I found a new love. And the food, that, you know, to get that food at the end of it is, you know, I was just looking at my freezer, getting filled up every week, like, oh, free pigeon. Oh. So,
you don't just get to go bang, it's delicious too, isn't it?
It's amazing, yeah. So,
all right, so I mean, you were saying about shooting, especially the pheasant shoot.
Yeah.
It does seem to me that one of the problems with the pheasant shoot is there are a lot of barriers to getting into it. You know, the etiquette being a big one. Is that how did you get past that?
Well, that I wasn't invited back to that shoot again. I think I was once, but that was very unique in that it was those people aren't in my circles. You know, I'd managed to get an invite for a friend. But then after that, I joined kind of smaller shoots, syndicates, walked up shoots, which is more me. You know, where you're not necessarily bothered about getting big bags, you're bothered about being surrounded by like-minded people, having good banter, walking out in the countryside and taking a brace home, you know.
I suppose I'm asking, does shooting have a problem in getting people to go shooting if there's a sort of slightly arsey end to it?
I would say so in terms of just the lack of knowledge of what really goes on a shoot. I think if I hadn't been there myself and someone had told me about it, I would be like, oh well, it's going to be stupidly expensive. I won't be able to afford it. Number one, you have to wear certain clothing. Number two, which you don't have to. Or, you have to wear sensible clothing for the elements. You don't always have to be head to toe in tweed. You can only be male. I'd never seen it. I was the only female gun. Forget the fact that I was black. I was the only girl. On that first shoot, and all the other ladies that were there were kind of stood in the background going, oh, well done, with their hat, and I'm like, get on the peg, come and join in the real fun. So yeah, I think it's just I don't want to use the word stereotype, but it's what the layman's people, the non-shooters would believe goes on, doesn't necessarily go on, but there's not enough out there in the media or, in the world showing them that it's not the way that you think it is,
Well, we'll come on to the pigeon shooting and the rabbit shooting in a minute, but the breaking down of stereotypes seems to be one of your things, and you've taken to Instagram with the wonderful account Shooting Girl with an Afro, lots of underscores between the words, and you've taken that as a way of explaining shooting to a wider public. Is that the idea?
I have, but also again talking about that stereotype, I use that wording because I'm very non-PC, so. For years, people would want to chat to me and go, oh, didn't you, I saw that girl and this girl, and I thought, I'm just going to use this phrase because people were so scared of using the word black, or so scared of, it's like...
I haven't said it. I hadn't noticed.
He has, and he's used several other words in private. So I just thought, I am the kind of person that what you see is, I am, it's what you get on the tin, basically, so I'm going to use a phrase that says that people can just say and not feel like they have to tiptoe around any words. I am a girl that shoots who has an Afro. It's, it is what it is.
It's fun and it's unusual, and it's also a way of explaining shooting which, other people don't have the benefit of.
Yeah, and it means that they can't say to someone, oh, I saw that girl with the black girl that, and have someone go, oh, supposed to say person of colour.
Exactly.
No, we're not.
All right.
So
good.
yeah.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
Do you on the black thing? Am I allowed to?
Shut up.
Thank you. On the black thing, are you able? I mean, you are able to break barriers with that, obviously. Have there been any barriers that you have come to in the world of shooting? Are we, as two Country File presenters have told us, institutionally racist in the countryside?
Not at all.
So pleased you said.
Not at all. Literally, whoever I speak to, the shooting community has been the most welcoming community that I've ever come across. I always say the first thing that people notice is that I'm female. It always is. And,
I think that's appalling.
Allowing but not in a bad way.
Sorry.
I was part of a wildfowling club when I used to live, Woodsea Wildfowlers, and I remember just being out on the low wash. We were just going out, a couple of guys were just coming back in, they were packing up and we were going out, and they were like, oh, hello, are you a member? And I was like, yeah. They're like, bloody hell, and I was getting all my camo on and pulling it, all my waterproofs, and they're like, it is so good to see a lady gun here. And they didn't know, they didn't know that I was the only female member of the whole wildfowling club. And so they were so happy to see that, it's, because at the end of the day, clubs will die out. If you don't diversify, I hate that word, but whether that be with younger people, females, black, whatever, when all the others have died out and their kids who are now not as interested in shooting and more interested in TikTok, don't come on board, these things will die out, and it's really important they don't because of the conservation. It's...
That's the story we want to tell. I did have a gamekeeper once say to me, because I was explaining I was making television programmes about shooting and hunting, he said he didn't think shooting was a spectator sport, and I must say that has been a problem for me to kind of rationalise that. You, like me, make shooting into a spectator sport in one form or another. Are you comfortable with that?
100%. How else do you learn without looking? It's about seeing. It's literally. So I wrote a blog the other day on my website with something similar in it and said, you can do all the courses and all the, certifications and this, that and the other, and you can look at silhouettes of ducks till the cows come home, you're not going to learn until you get out in nature underneath. And even if you're not shooting, you're sat with someone who is, or even you haven't got a gun, you're just sat looking. You need to be able to tell the difference between a goose and a swan, for instance, you know. And let me tell you, when it's dark, it's, you know, you have to be able to do that identification for yourself, so that when you're not with your friend or your expert or your person, that's a bit like driving a car, you know, you pass the test and they're like, okay, well done, off you go. It's like, oh crap, I've got to make those decisions myself now. I need to be aware enough to go, there's no one sat there going, I'm going to press the brake for you. So you need to get out and you need to watch. You need to see things. And, you know, having the power of the internet is amazing to be able to, for other people to be able to access it that may not normally be able to access it. But if you are interested in shooting in any way, or wildlife or conservation, you need to get out in it and you need to see people in it.
I think what that gamekeeper was worried about was that there is a sense of validation, I'm not sure if that's the right word, that comes from social media, that if it's on Facebook, it must exist, it must be a thing. If we're not talking about it, maybe we've got something to hide. And I sort of find that's an argument for showing, you know, the shooting of wildlife as entertainment, which is 100%. Part of what we do.
Yeah, I think we need to, because at the end of the day, it's a natural thing that humans have always done. We're just doing it with guns now instead of spears. You know, it's hunting and foraging for our survival. You know, yes, we don't necessarily need to survive anymore because we have supermarkets, but we all know that there's food out there that's a pile of shit, you know, that is labelled up as something fabulous, but it's pumped full of crap. It's, you know, the animal hasn't had a good life, and it's got the carbon footprint of a flipping jumbo jet, you know. So we're just doing what humans have always done, and actually we're doing it better now because we have science and we understand the effect that we have, that we can have negatively, but we also understand the impact that we can have positively when land is managed properly.
We're much more validated by science, I think. One of the other things that strikes me about it all is, you know, we spent tens of thousands of years sitting around campfires in this day and age, not talking about how to take out our caves, but talking about the mammoth and how we went out and we got it. And that narrative, that story is wonderful. You tell that over and over again.
100%. And I think, you know, it's part of, when you think about on a shoot day, the banter and the things, you know, that's part of how I learned as well, is just hearing stories of other people out, hearing stories of mistakes. And it's part of kind of the human, I don't know, it makes us all relatable to be able to go, you know, just talk openly and say, oh yeah, I went on this one, I didn't get anything. Oh, I went out and shot this many people. Oh, did you? Or what did you do then? How did you do that? What did you use? You know, it's learning, it's an important narrative.
One of the things that's very noticeable about you, I have to say, is you're glamorous. You're very glamorous. No, that's for me to say, not for you.
I don't think I would use that word at all.
You're glamorous, and one thing I also know is that...
Did you see my false eyelashes fall off, Charlie, in that first
I did.
film?
That was glorious.
There's nothing glamorous about that.
The eyelash moment was brilliant. But shooting, and wildfowling particularly, is not a glamorous sport.
Not at all.
No. So, how do you cope, darling?
I cope because I don't give a rat's ass. You know, I'm not there for that. I'm there for nature. I'm there for food. I'm there for the buzz. I do enjoy shooting. I enjoy holding a gun, and I enjoy the smell of the gunpowder. And you know, I love everything about it. So, and it's. I was a girl guide growing up, so I love the whole kind of rough and tumble of it as well. I love the full experience, packing everything up, getting prepared. You know, thinking things through and going, okay, where am I going to go? Where's going to be best? Thinking, have I got the right cartridges? Because I want that bird to die. You know, I don't want to injure it. I want it to be a clean shot. So I need to make sure I've got the right cartridges. You know, and getting out, getting tired, carrying all your gear, thinking, yes, this is my exercise. I don't have to go to the gym. You know, and coming home all wet and soggy, but then getting everything off, hanging up your food, going, I'll do that tomorrow, and getting in your pyjamas all nice and cozy, knowing that you've got some fresh air, got some exercise, got some food, and you can give yourself a pat on the back and have a nice gin.
Exactly.
Celebrate.
Earning your gin. That's what it's all about.
100%.
And then you put some of it on Instagram, and you must get a response to that. So what do people say to you typically? Give me the range of responses that you've had to your Instagram. Are they broadly speaking positive, negative? We all get death threats. Do you get death threats?
No, I've not had any.
Oh, how disappointing! They're
any
great. We love death
negativity.
threats.
I challenge anyone to see what happens. No, I've not had any negativity, and actually, I'm kind of playing on that at the moment and riding that wave for the sake of field sports in general, because I feel like people are scared to say anything negative about me because
Isn't that
I'm
great?
black.
Yes, exactly.
I can play the black card.
That's so funny.
So yeah, I'm like, well, I can use that to the advantage of field sports. I will. But yeah, I've not had anything negative.
Can we have just a little ripple of applause for somebody prepared to stand up for racism in that way? Marvellous. Thank you very much.
But the thing is, if I do get any, I welcome it, because at the end of the day, it's a chance to have a conversation. It opens up conversation, which opens up debate, which opens up the chance to educate people in a calm manner. And just show them that they're stupid.
You must have people saying relatively nice things to you via Instagram about what you're doing. What positive feedback do you get?
Oh, it literally warms my heart so much, because I'm getting the message out there that I want to get clearly from the messages that I'm getting from people. So the main thing actually from men and women is asking how they go the next step. So they're either, which I did write a blog about recently, they're either an air gunner, they've done that their whole lives, they maybe just competitively have never even shot game with an air rifle. And I'm thinking, I'm thinking I could shoot game now, but what do I do? Do I do it with the air rifle? Do I go onto a shotgun? And it's just, if you don't have people around you to just give you options, not advice necessarily, just options for you to then choose what's right for you, then you're not going to go any further, and there doesn't seem to be, there's a lot of really high quality, high value information out there from experts who have been in the field for 30 years, 50 years, and that is valuable and it's key, and we need that for those of us who have been shooting and need that next step. But there's not much out there for beginners, for people who are nervous, for people who don't have friends in the industry or family who are gamekeepers. There's not enough out there for that level, and I certainly didn't have that when I started. If it wasn't for my ex-husband, I'd still be clueless today. So there needs to be more just out there generally for people that are just thinking about it, or who have never thought about it but realise, it's not a scary thing. It's not an expensive thing necessarily, if you're sensible when you buy your guns and don't get carried away. And that's what I'm trying to do, is reach that level of audience and give them that kind of warm hug, and it's all right, just take that step.
That's lovely. That's a lovely thing to do. You're going to kind of grow up with it a bit, aren't you? That's going to be a thing, isn't it? And you might not be that way in for the beginner in 10 years' time, because but you'll have taken a group of people with you. Exactly,
and educated them to then take the next group of people with them as well, because it's going to look very different in 10 years' time, it's going to look very different in 20 years' time. But at each point, whether you're an underkeeper who's 20 years old, or you're someone like me who I'm now 40, but I started in my 20s, who's starting later in life, you need to just remember the little people, the people that were like you, and give them that little bit of advice. Don't keep the land to yourself. Don't go, I don't know, where's my permission?
The endless quest for permission.
It's like, no, share, don't be greedy, because, when you're gone, which is what happened recently to someone, I want to say his name's Pigeon, I don't know, it's on the circuit that there's this person that had all this land and he's gone, and suddenly it's open season, but it should have been open season before.
No, are you happy with the way because we have this slightly peculiar system of people who own the land say who goes hunting on it, whereas on the continent they do things differently. It's kind of much more open access, and anybody can go anywhere with a shotgun. Are you happy with the British system, broadly speaking?
Broadly speaking, yes.
It does work, doesn't it?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I considered moving to Europe at one point a few years back, and the shooter in me loved the fact that I was like, yeah, just go anywhere. I'm like, yeah, I'm coming on your land and I'm shooting this whether you like it or not. Like, I was, yes.
Standing in somebody's back garden with a semi or so.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so obviously the shooter in me and the excitement of it was like, oh, you know, but actually I like the regulations, I like the safety. I just don't like the greediness and the snobbery that comes with some of it.
Well, I think we all try and break that down, don't you? All right, you've been shooting for 14 years. This is a game I like to play with people. You're going to a desert island for the rest of your life, and you can take one shooting sport with you. What would that be? Come on, nature abhors a vacuum.
Oh, I can't do that, Charlie.
What are you torn between?
All of them. I mean, venison, best meat on the planet, and feed you for months. That's right.
Agreement.
It's delicious. Yeah. Pigeon, so much fun. In terms of the different speeds and the
shooting challenge of pigeons. I mean, it is the best.
Wildfowling.
I'll tell you what. We'll give you an island with a hill in the middle with a deer on it.
Can I do a 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. Okay. Go on then.
First place, I think, would have to be wildfowling.
Right.
Because I do love my shotgun.
A good boggy desert island. Then.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, it feels like the closest thing to me, personally, to my ancestors, I suppose, and just getting out there and really hunting. Second place would have to be stalking. It's new to me. I've only been doing it for a couple of years, and that's probably why, because I'm still excited about it. There's still so much for me to learn, and the meat lasts for ages, and you can do so much with it, and it's delicious. And then third place, pigeons.
Pigeons, yes.
Pigeons.
You haven't put driven shooting in there, is it?
No, because as much as I enjoy it, and I have several days booked this season, I feel like there's some work to be done in the industry when it comes to driven shooting.
Issues type work.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot more that we could do, and I'm not the person to say what that would be.
We had a punch up here earlier on. It was great. It was a verbal punch up. It was brilliant. We had Patrick One Duck Galbraith from Shooting Times versus Mark Thousand Grouse Osborne, the sporting agent. It was marvellous.
Well, see, this is the thing. So I've recently been introduced to grouse shooting. I've not shot myself, but I went out on the moors on a safari and learned about the work that goes into the. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm sorry the RSPB can get, because the land that I was on was teeming with chicks. It was absolutely amazing.
All grouse or not just grouse?
Oh, everything.
Fetch you that line, don't you?
No, oyster catchers, lapwing, like just everything, teeming. We were in the car and we had to stop every 2 seconds. Oh, there's some chicks running. Oh, and that's because of the work that the gamekeepers are doing, because of the grouse shooting. Next door are several thousands of acres of bee land, which had, I think, something like 150,000 breeding pairs of gulls. And not much else.
Gulls, great moorland birds.
So, and I love the wild element of grouse shooting. This is what I'm learning more about, and I'd like to see if there's a way that could be kind of incorporated a bit more in the pheasant world. And I'm not the person to say how that would work.
You're careful about the presentation of these things, which people have to be in your position. You're selling this to a much wider public than the game fair visitor.
Exactly, yeah. So you do have to be careful what you say to a degree, but at the same time, I will stick to my opinions and my morals, and I won't be too fluffy about things, because we have to be real. You have to have real conversations to get progress.
So has the rest of London's working class, where you were brought up, said, what are you doing, Nicole? What's going on?
Well, the council estate that I grew up on probably wouldn't be interested in what it was doing now.
You can tell all those folks you grew up on the estate.
They'd just be like, oh, it's that, because I spoke like this on a council estate, so they were like, oh, that fucking snob, that ghetto snob over there, what's she up to now? So they wouldn't necessarily be interested, but I do want to reach people that, it's not necessarily the working class, it can be any class, it's people that just don't know about field sports. I use the word shooting a lot, but it's just field sports in general, because I've recently gotten into foraging and that side of things as well, and I suppose the broader term for it for me is wildlife management. That covers everything, and the people that are doing that the most are the people that are involved in field sports, and the people that are doing it the best are the people that are involved in field sports.
Give yourselves a pat on the back. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicole Moore, thank you very much indeed.